Hello and welcome to another episode of Plugged In from YAA. My name is Justin Fisher, and here we have our wonderful auto expert Phil with us today. Phil, we're going to
Hey
have some
guys.
interesting discussions, aren't we?
Well, we're gonna try.
We're going to
Let's
try.
let's let's just try.
Yeah, so we'll see what you really think about EVs, and I'm always open ears. I have a very flexible opinion of EVs, and honestly, I know that it's a very tough shift for a lot of automotive enthusiasts to make. Driving an EV is a completely different experience. It feels more like a video game than it does like driving a
True.
car around. And we'll talk
hmm
about what it would take to convince an EV skeptic that electrification is the way of the future. And
That would be me, Justin. You
yeah,
got to convince me. All right, that's right. And everyone in chat, come
yeah.
on, try
Hey,
to
I, th-
try
I
to
think
try to convince me.
I think we'll have some listeners in the chat that are probably on your side today, Phil, and that's okay. That's all
It's
right.
possible. Yes. Yep.
But first, we will kick it off with some EV news. We finally had some news trickling in this week. Last week was a bit of a slow week. Sony and Honda are coming together to build an electric vehicle that will go on
Yeah,
sale starting in 2025. That's a quick turnaround. Now, Phil, do you own any Sony products or have you in the past?
I did. So do you
Yeah.
remember? Do you remember back when they were making those Trinitron TVs?
Oh,
They
yes.
were they were like the best in the business. So that really got me turned into Sony at the time. And then after that, their receivers were pretty high end. So even then, I went to them to get that, and so that's my experience with Sony.
For me, it was PlayStation 1, PlayStation
Oh, that
2,
too. Yes, of
yeah,
course, PlayStation.
PlayStation 3, and then I kind of fell out of the gaming world. But yeah, PlayStation, that's what I think of when I think of Sony. Now, yeah, it looks like Sony is going to be the driving force behind this new electric vehicle lineup's technology.
hmm
The interior of the vehicle is basically going to be all Sony, whereas the electric powertrain is going to be Honda.
hmm
This is fascinating because right now in 2022, Honda does not sell a single fully electric vehicle in the United States. They do sell the Honda E in Europe, which
Yeah.
is a tiny little I guess it's for around town. It's a little
hmm
crossover type. I don't know. It looks like a Kia Soul to me, but a
Sure.
lot cooler, a lot nicer looking.
Yeah. Yep.
Starting next year, Honda is going to be bringing the Prologue electric crossover to the US market, but here's the catch. Honda is not making the Prologue. General Motors is making it for them.
So it seems like Honda just doesn't want to make an EV. They're looking elsewhere
They
to.
well, they've been pushing it off, and I think, Phil, you may be able to relate to what Honda has done because I believe Toyota and Honda were pushing this off as long as they could to see if indeed
Yeah,
electrification was where the industry would head. Maybe
true.
something perhaps they thought maybe something would come along that would kind of just, create a different direction for the whole industry, but that hasn't happened.
Or just maybe a hybrid push or a further push into hybrid to then later on transition into a full EV setup.
Yes,
But
because both Honda and Toyota are really, really good at making hybrids, right?
mhm, absolutely.
Yeah, and they make plenty of money doing so. I mean, Toyota's now the number one automaker by volume in the United States, so clearly they didn't really see the need to scurry along and hurry up
Correct.
their electrification, right? But
Correct.
now it's happening. 2023, Honda is going to be building the Prologue with General Motors. It
Mhm,
basically just has Honda exterior and interior styling, but
mhm.
the Ultium electric powertrain is what propels the Prologue. So,
Yes, and that's GM.
yeah, that's GM. I know that GM CEO Mary Barra likes to tout what they've done with the Ultium platform. And to be honest, it's a great platform as far as we know. It's capable of up to 350 kilowatt charging, which is much
Mhm.
faster than most EVs on the market today. I mean, that's twice as fast as the Volkswagen ID4, for example. Uh, Solid range. I mean, most Ultium powered vehicles are expected to get over 300 miles of range. And then vehicle to load capabilities, which today, Phil, that's gonna be one of the points that I use to try to convince you that
I
EVs are
was
actually
I
pretty
Yep, I
cool.
knew you were gonna go there.
Imagine
I knew it.
powering your home with your car for a few days when the power goes out. I mean,
Yep,
the
yep.
Ultium
Well, that I
platform
mean,
from GM is a part of that.
the Lightning, Ford is pushing their advertising to be able to power a home, which is pretty interesting.
My
It
car,
works.
the Hyundai Ioniq 5 can do that.
Hmm.
And
And how much time can you get to power your home,
with
and what
my
can you power?
yes, with my car, it's not a lot. This is still like 5-year-old technology when it comes to the engineering part. So if 1.9 kilowatt output, that would
Mhm.
be like running a heater if it was in the winter time and I needed to warm up my house. Small appliances with my car. It's
Okay.
it's it's not gonna save us if Armageddon comes. But the F-150 Lightning, this next generation of vehicle to load capable electric vehicles, they're claiming that with power rationing, 10 days of powering an entire home, and without
Wow.
power rationing, like 2 or 3 days of just like full household electrical load. The Lightning is far more capable than my Ioniq 5 when it comes to vehicle to load. I'm just happy I have it because I can literally plug in my laptop and work from my car
Mhm.
just by plugging it in under the seat in my car. Like, I have an
Okay.
outlet in
Sure.
my car. That's the kinda stuff I care about. But,
Now, does that decrease your range? So let's say you decided one afternoon you're just kind of parked, you're doing some work in the car. You've got like a 200-mile range, and then all of a
yes,
sudden now you're powering all your devices,
I've
and you
done
go
this.
back, you're like, "Oh man, now I only have like 100 miles."
Yes,
Like,
after I purchased this car, I did it precisely that to see what would happen. I sat in my car and worked for about an hour and a half with my laptop plugged in. Air conditioner was on,
mhm,
and the battery dropped by about 2 or 3%. So I went from
okay,
like, I think it was at that specific time, 40 to 37%. It was
okay,
totally worth it because I was able to listen to my awesome sound system that came with
that's
the
not bad.
car and just enjoy my glass roof and all that. It's not bad.
Mhm.
Things that affect EV range are gonna be like, weather, so if it's really cold, you get
So
much
that's
worse
something that I
efficiency.
have to deal with being up in Michigan. That range anxiety will come into
Yes.
play when it's 20 degrees up here.
Yeah, Phil, if you were to buy a budget, 150-mile range Nissan Leaf in the winter, you
Hmm.
might be getting like 100 miles of range, and that's pathetic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would not want that.
And
I
I
would not want that.
sympathize with that. I sympathize with that. Before we go too much further, let me cover just a few more news items because I think the listeners might want to know about NIO.
Sure.
NIO is a Chinese automaker who is already growing their US corporate headquarters in San Jose, California. They plan on entering the US market. They haven't said it out loud, but they're literally hiring for positions that require experience in the US.
Mm,
I mean, to me, that says we're coming to America.
yep.
Neo's ES7 SUV, the specs have been announced with up to a 578-mile range. They must be just
Wow.
weighing this thing down with batteries. Because keep in mind, solid state batteries, which are capable of being more energy dense, they're not production ready yet. We're looking at like 2025 for them to just start to enter electric vehicles. So
Sure.
we're still talking lithium ion battery technologies, and they're saying 578 miles of range. I wonder what capacity their battery pack is. It must be big.
It
Let's see if
has to
we
be
have that
big.
information. Yep, we got it here. 150 kilowatt hour battery. So with a 150 kilowatt hour battery, 578 miles of range. This is based on the Chinese cycle for
Hmm.
range estimates, just like we have the EPA cycle. Now, what
Hmm.
fascinates me is that my Ioniq 5, it gets 250 miles of range, which for my needs are good enough. And I found that to be true in the real world. It really is 250 miles of range.
That's good to
I
know.
only have a 72 kilowatt hour usable battery pack. Every
Hmm.
EV's battery has some sort of buffer. Mine has like a 3 or 4 kilowatt hour buffer. So that's
Okay.
fascinating that they're getting that kind of efficiency out of a larger SUV. Um,
Yep.
Honestly, that's good. To get 570 miles out of an
I mean, I
SUV.
would feel better about that, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, because when it's 20 degrees up here, like how much range would be cut out of that, do you think, in a winter
Worst
location?
case scenarios, you lose about 40% of your range, when you're
Okay.
not towing anything. Of course, if you're towing a trailer and it's 20 degrees, you're gonna get even worse than that, which that is
I'm
one of the
sure.
scenarios where I would not recommend someone to go electric in 2022. I would say, "No, stick with what you
Right.
got." But yeah, 20-degree weather in Michigan, maybe with a headwind. If your EV is rated at 300 miles of range, you're probably gonna get more like 180.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the Neo ES7, it is not officially coming to the US, but all signs point towards an eventual US arrival. So Neo is hiring positions for building a factory in the United States.
Mm. Where
So
do they say where?
no. No, they haven't
Mm.
announced the factory. Here's
Oh,
here's what they're doing. They have job positions in China that Chinese media have reported on, and I mean
yeah.
everybody has Google Translator these days. So
Mhm.
the positions are for blueprint factory development type positions, engineering positions, logistical positions, but they say must have experience doing this in the United States and dealing with
Mhm.
US regulations and all of
Mhm.
that. That
Yep.
means they're thinking
That they're
about it.
coming here. Yeah,
Yeah, they're
of
coming.
course. Yep.
So Neo, what is the advantage of Neo over competitors, particularly Tesla? Well, in theory, it would be affordability. It's hard to do an apples to apples comparison since Neo is not yet in the US, but most estimates place Neo vehicles at $10,000 to $20,000 less than the comparable Tesla models. And now the ES7 is even coming with vehicle to load capability, which is something that Tesla does not offer.
Mm.
Now, Phil, do you have any ideas why Tesla may not offer vehicle to load capability for quite some time? How could that be a conflict of interest for Tesla?
Hmm. Now that is a good question. I do not know the answer to that one, so I'm gonna let you answer that.
All right, I've got it. Tesla also sells a Powerwall. So the Powerwall is a wonderful gigantic battery that you can have installed at your home, usually in the garage,
That's right.
which
Yes.
essentially would negate so if you have vehicle to load capability in your Tesla Model S, that's going to negate the market for Tesla's Powerwall. It's another
Yeah.
product
Yeah.
that they
Well, that
sell
would
for
that would
like
make sense. Yeah. Hmm.
10 or $12,000, something like that. It might be less than that. It might be like $8,000. Anyways, Tesla doesn't want to compete with themselves, so they're not offering vehicle to load capabilities. Whereas competitors such as Hyundai, Kia, Neo, Ford, General Motors, they're all coming to market with vehicle to load capabilities.
And
This,
that's where you can connect to your house, correct? Because I believe John was asking in chat that's where you can connect and power
yes.
your house, right?
So simply put, with what I have in my car, and if you just bought an F-150 Lightning just off the dealership lot and didn't do anything else, you would have
Hmm.
to plug the appliance into the truck, which it's
Yeah.
amazing. I've seen how the F-150 Lightning, it has a bunch of outlets, like 110-volt outlets, just a whole
Sure.
bunch of them. I think it has like 10 outlets. You would have to
Hmm.
literally get an extension cord and plug the appliance into the truck. Maybe you lost power in the winter and you need to heat your home, you could do that. But if you
Hmm.
want to literally plug your vehicle to load EV into your entire home with just one shot, just plug it in once, you do have to get special installation and make sure that your home's electrical infrastructure can handle that. And that
Mm.
usually costs two, three, $4,000. But
Wow.
from my perspective, I'm not trying to do that. I just
Right.
like being able to plug in appliances like my laptop. I mean, if something goes wrong, I
Yeah.
can, yeah, make sure that my
Yeah.
family is nice and warm in the wintertime, that kind of stuff. But the possibilities are endless when you have what the Silverado EV and the F-150 Lightning are offering. The possibilities are endless because if you are able to ensure that your home is adequately wired for that type of electrical infrastructure, you can literally just treat your truck as a
I mean,
battery backup.
that's a really interesting topic because I have never really thought of an electric vehicle of being that to be able to
Yeah.
power your home, to be able to provide other avenues of a power source. And I had never thought about that like that. And it's quite fascinating actually that it could actually do that.
And it's kind of a rabbit hole of possibilities because I'm sure you're familiar with electrical demand charges. So, based on the
Hmm.
time of day, your rate could be much higher.
Yeah,
Um,
yep.
you, in theory, could avoid demand charges by using your vehicle's battery backup to supply your home's power during times of demand charges.
That makes sense. That
Yeah.
makes
So
sense. And then you're plugging your hybrid and you're plugging your car in at night where the demand is not there,
yes, and
or the charges are not higher.
we're gonna need to have a whole episode about is the grid ready for EVs, because there's not a straightforward answer. It's complicated, and I've seen a lot of EV enthusiasts and EV advocates say they kind of try to belittle that argument and just kind of say, "Oh, that's a non-issue. Don't worry about it." I've done a lot of work for electrical type companies, solar power
Yeah.
companies, things like that. And I know that there actually is quite a bit of thought that is going into this right now. So it's a justified
Okay.
concern. We're going
It
to talk
is.
more about that on a future episode of YAA's Plugged
That
In.
would be a great show to have.
Yeah. Now, before we get deeper into this discussion, Phil, let's talk about Tesla's price increases, because I know that 3 out of 4 American EV buyers are still opting for a Tesla. Prices have gone up yet again. Is it inflation? Does Tesla need money? I don't know. Not going to speculate, but what we do know is that prices have gone up by as much as $6,000 for Tesla models. Right now, the most popular Tesla and the most popular EV in America is the Tesla Model Y long range. It went
Hmm.
from 62,990 to 65,990. So I'm feeling like my Ioniq 5 that I got at MSRP is a lot
You got a
better
good deal.
deal. Got a good deal.
You
Yeah.
you got a deal. And I'm certain that it's just market demand that they're pricing these cars higher. And you know, I I wonder if they get the same bad rap as, and look, and I'm not an advocate for any kind of markup from any dealership, right? But, you know, is Tesla getting the same bad rap as the dealer network that are pushing markups on high demand vehicles? And here we got Teslas that they're just making these cars cost more and more and more and pricing people out.
Yeah, Tesla
Potentially.
prices
Potentially.
on average are about 30% more now than they were a year ago. That's a
Yeah, that's
huge
crazy.
increase.
That's
Yeah.
huge.
I mean, I've told Justice, who's a big Tesla fan, that I probably would have bought a Model Y if it was still at the pricing that it was a year ago.
Hmm.
Say the Model Y was $54,000. Sure, Tesla no longer qualifies for the $7,500 federal EV tax credit, but they have the Tesla Supercharger network, which is a game changer. They
It
have
is.
great over-the-air update capabilities. I may have gone that route, but honestly, at 63 to $65,000, no thanks. Can't do
Yeah,
that.
agreed. Agreed.
The Model 3 has gone up by $2,500 for the long range model. The rear wheel drive base Model 3 was not affected. So now a Model 3 long range with 353 miles of range, that's a lot of range,
That's not bad.
costs 57,990. Keep in mind, these prices are before the $1,200 destination fee. So I should have done the math in my head, but I mean, the Model Y, it really costs like $67,200.
Hmm.
That's a lot of money. I mean,
It to me, like when I look at these cars, I understand the technology is awesome, but they're so simple. They're so simplified to me. There's no, in my opinion, there's not much character to the car other than the performance aspect of it, um, and the tech aspect of it. Now I know that the Model S, they've amped up the interior. You've got now a center screen, and you've got the middle now. They've kind of done some things with the interior, um, to make it look a little more, I don't know, fun to be in. Kind of, they're just so simple to me. When I look at them.
yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what it would take to convince an EV skeptic that an EV is right for them. So, Phil, have you driven any EVs, or which ones have you had experiences with?
I've not driven one. I've ridden several, mostly just the Tesla, uh, not the, it's the 3.
Oh,
That's the
yeah,
one that
Model
I that
3.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I had a friend that, had one, and I mean, I will tell you that immediate power is exhilarating. I mean,
Mhm.
I love it, that aspect. Now, I've got a Mustang, right? And I love the that V8, and I love the sound, that burble sound, that it's like it's just glorious music. And you can't I can't get that out of an EV.
A fundamental difference between us, Phil, is I love how silent my car is. I like
Yeah.
listening to music. I'm a real audiophile when it comes to music, and I can hear music in a way in ways that I never could before because of how quiet my car is.
Oh,
Now, you
sure.
got homework already, Phil. I've got some homework to assign you. The first thing you gotta
Okay.
do is test drive EVs from at least 3 different automakers, because
I gotta get a hold of one.
yes,
It's
I will
like
drive up to Michigan and let you drive my Ioniq 5.
okay.
'Cause I mean, honestly, I enjoy driving my Ioniq 5 more than I enjoyed driving the Model Ys and Model 3s that I've test driven, and, um, I think that being behind the wheel, you'll see that there are some benefits and some exhilarating, enthusiast type benefits to driving an EV. Maybe not, the Kia e-Niro, the Hyundai Kona, the Chevy Bolt. They're not the fastest cars. They're definitely
Yeah.
economical choices. They're great choices
Mhm.
for a budget, but they're not gonna be fun to drive. I think you should get behind the wheel of a few EVs and see what you think about it. Maybe we'll have you back again. But let's talk more. So from
I do agree. Yes.
from an auto enthusiast perspective, you said that maybe it doesn't feel like a very emotional vehicle to be behind the wheel of. Would you say that's how
Yes,
you feel?
correct. Yes, absolutely.
Now, what would change that?
So when I get behind the wheel of, let's say, the Mustang, or if I get into a Corvette or a Camaro, I like the engagement of how the interior looks, how all the knobs and everything feel. I I like the engagement in the actual cockpit area.
You might like my
Like
car.
I mean, I probably
It's
would.
it's not like a
I
Tesla. It's not like a Tesla where you just got that one screen. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's kind of like what I'm going on right
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah.
And I'm seeing your car. I have seen pictures and all that, and I think it looks great.
Mhm.
And I think it's a good step, and it might be something if I were to experience or have some time in that I might be compelled. Um, but right now, and another thing is like weight on these too. So the performance aspect of the vehicle is diminished by how much additional weight now that you are carrying on it, right?
Yep.
Um, but I think overall, for me, I'm very emotional when it comes to the looks of a vehicle, how it looks on the inside, because that's where I spend a lot or all my time, right? Um, and until I see the EVs get to that point, and I see it happening, I do. Um, and but the other thing is the sound. I I I don't know that it's gonna be so weird to drive something all day long and you only hear the roar of the tires and you don't hear any engine. That's gonna be so weird for me.
Well, if you have really, really crappy interior sound insulation, like, I'll be honest, the Tesla Model 3, I don't think Justice would disagree with me, but the Tesla Model 3 has crappy, crappy insulation. Then, yeah, it sounds a little weird. You hear the roar of the road and the tires, but yeah, you need to step into a nice, well-built EV, and we'll see what you think. Um, and honestly, I can relate a bit to the love for and the nostalgia of traditional vehicles because listeners will be shocked and
Mhm.
appalled to know that I actually like the smell of going to an airport and smelling jet fuel.
Ah,
Crazy, right? That's my dirty little secret.
the smell of that kerosene. I
Yes,
it's
yes. Like, I
it is,
love,
yeah.
yeah, all that thousands of gallons of fuel being
I
burned
do
per
too,
hour.
man. That's
Yeah, so
I love that.
but for me personally, I also am a fan of no tailpipe emissions. I know there are still emissions coming from the power that is generated to power these EVs, but we got to keep in mind electrical motors are by nature much more efficient than combustion engine motors. So even if you
I
get it
do
from
agree.
burning coal, like where I live in West Virginia, you're still using less energy. But
Yeah,
um, now let's
agreed.
talk about infrastructure. How much do you think about infrastructure with your particular opinion of EVs? What would need to happen for that to change?
So I'm sure this everyone probably shares the same uh I guess anxiety or talk that in order for me to buy an EV, I really want it to be where similar to going to the gas station and it takes me 5 minutes to fill my car up, right? How in the future is this going to work more effectively to have people be able to stop, get what they need, and go on? Um, we have an issue with the batteries, right? Because doing fast charging is going to degrade the battery way faster, and then you're going to have battery issues down the line with it. So I think for me, I want to be able to go to a gas station like place, be able to fill it up, be able to have an adequate amount of range, a couple hundred, if not more, and have it done within 5-10 minutes. Right? I want to be in and out. I
So
don't. I don't want to sit and wait.
what if I told you, Phil, that 80 to 90% of EV charging is done at home overnight? I plug in my car like I plug in my phone.
Okay, you're probably right.
Well, but we need more chargers. If everyone went and bought, let's say the dealers were filled with just EVs on the lot right now, what a magical world that would be. And in reality, it's really hard to find one.
Yeah,
Let's just say
yeah,
that
true.
everyone went out and bought an EV in 2022. Charging infrastructure would be miserable. No one would go on road trips because there would be hour-long lines to get into a charging stall. What I'm saying is that charging infrastructure is not nearly ready for the masses to switch to EVs, right? It's
Correct.
not even close to
Correct.
being there. And
Yep.
so we should be okay with the fact that it's going to take a decade or two to reach, 50% EV market share, because we need more infrastructure before that happens. Now, what I must say is that typically, you only go to a public charger when you're traveling. Those who live in a multifamily housing, that is more of an issue. And fortunately, especially in states like California, some multifamily housing managers, like apartment managers and things like that, are installing chargers at the apartment complex, which is
Hmm.
awesome. But
Yep.
in general, it's only going to be when you're traveling. And keep in mind that there are several 2022 models that charge in 20 to 30 minutes. And with the way that
Hmm.
I travel, that is perfectly fine with me. I go into the gas station, I'm still giving the gas station my business, and,
True.
buy a snack, a drink, something like that, and when I come out, just got 10 minutes left to charge, and then I'm on the road again. It
Okay.
works for my lifestyle, but I'll admit that EV charging would not work for those who like to stay on the road for 4 hours straight without stopping.
Yep.
I don't
And
know
you know
how they
what? I
have
do.
bladders of steel, but they do it.
I look. I get that most people are not traveling long distances on a daily basis. I
Mhm.
completely get that. And they charge it overnight. So the fact that I'm indicating for me, like, I don't want the long charge times or have to wait. It could be more of an anxiety piece of it. It's going to be a change, right? It's going to be a change of how we're going to use our cars and how we're going to need to replenish power back into them. And I think it's just more me kind of like talking more about it in a small mindset and not really thinking about, okay, overall most people are not going to be worrying about that because they don't travel that much during the course of the day.
Yes, and another thing that I feel like we should talk about is the fact that, well, let's talk about combustion, because combustion engines and just the whole automotive industry is centered around internal combustion engines. It has
Hmm.
evolved and changed so much over the decades. Like, combustion engines are far more efficient now than they were 50 years ago, and you could go on and on with the list of improvements. So I
Hmm.
feel like a lot of the skepticism towards EVs today assumes that EV powertrains are not going to get better, that they're just going to be what they are now forever. Whereas in reality, we've got not only like GM's Ultium powertrain, which is basically going to be fast charging, better range, etc. Just a
Hmm.
few years beyond that, we're going to be looking at solid state batteries coming to market, which are going to be safer, more energy dense, capable of handling faster charging.
Hmm.
Basically, the things that you're mentioning, Phil, that could be here by the end of the 2020s. So I feel like a lot of the EV skeptics may come around to it simply as technology runs its course and we have innovation, as we
And
always do. Innovation.
Justin, it's about change, right? and a lot of us are don't want to change, right? There's, where we like what we have, we enjoy it. We don't want to have to now think about a different way of doing things, right? Um, and with the EVs coming into play, that's what's going to happen. And I'm on board with it. I'm not saying that there isn't going to be a time that, hey, I'm going to love EVs, because it's going to be that point, and I'm an auto enthusiast, and I love vehicles. So it's gonna be there. I'm gonna get there. It's just I just need to get over it and make
Uh,
that change, right?
I think we need to find the right one for you. We should have you test drive as many as you can and record it on video, or write up an essay and let us know what you found.
Yeah,
Um,
right, right.
Now I gotta be honest, because there are some hassles to the electric lifestyle, because I was at Electrify America with my wife and daughter, and we were plugging in to charge on just a regional road trip, and only one out of the 4 charging stalls was functional, and that's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed to say
Oh,
that,
so that
but that's a
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
Now, we were able to get charged, it was fine, but we had to think about it. Was it worth the hassle? I mean, my car comes with 2 years of free charging, and even after that, at current electricity rates at Electrify America, that charge would have cost about $20.
Yeah.
It was worth the little bit of hassle to save, I don't know, $40 to $50 on fuel. Um, so there's also that. It's like, it's not perfect. It's a pain in the butt sometimes, but for our family, it's worth the hassle to save roughly $150 per month, which
Well, but here
it
I
makes
would have an argument, Justin, that
okay.
if you're gonna on average pay more for that EV.
Yes, it's about
Yes. Okay.
$11,000 more on average.
So at where are you gonna break even at saving that $100 a month in gas?
Yes. Now, we have an article on the website about this, for
Yes.
broken down per EV compared to its ICE equivalent.
Yep,
So for some EVs, it's in as little as 3 to 4 years, which is still a long time.
it is.
For other EVs, like an F-150 Lightning, it could be like 8 to 10 years.
Mhm.
Like, that's a lot. That's a valid point, Phil, and that's why I only recommend buying an EV if you drive more than 12,000 miles per year
Yeah.
and you plan on keeping it for several years,
Mhm.
because that's a good point. EVs cost too much right now, quite frankly. They should not be a luxury item, which I know we
Right.
had one of the automaker executives just the other day was saying EVs should not be a luxury item, and that's definitely true. I mean, so the average vehicle transaction for a new car was $46,000 in the first quarter of
Yeah.
2022. For
Yep.
an EV, it was $57,000. So,
Okay. So I mean, you're paying a premium for it, but what I
mhm.
with the push to get these into the market so quickly, you would think that they would price it more appropriately and not put a premium on it. Even if the OEMs have to take a little bit of a loss, it's in the long run getting those vehicles out on the road and getting everyone ready to make the EV switch on a widely accepted scale.
I agree, and I also want to bring up this comment from Igor in the chat. Good point. Uh,
Yep.
Based on the research I did, I crunched the numbers looking at fuel cost based on how many miles you drive per year, maintenance costs. I would say what Igor said is true on average. It's usually on average across models 5 to 6 years for that payoff time. Um,
Hmm.
I also drive it because I like not having tailpipe emissions. I also,
Sure.
contrary to you, like how it's quiet, and yeah, I love the other benefits of driving an EV, but let's talk about that, because you mentioned that automakers would. Why aren't they offering them at lower prices, even if they're not making so much money on them? It sounds like the legacy automakers are about to pivot in that direction, because
Yeah.
the 2024, or maybe it's a 23 model. No, it's a 2024. The Chevy Equinox EV is supposed to start at $30,000. I do not believe it until I see it.
True.
I wouldn't be
Right.
surprised if, like, oops, it starts at $38,000. But
Yep.
that's what they're saying. And I doubt GM could make money on a $30,000 crossover EV, let
No, I
alone
don't
the
see that. Nope.
$26,000 Chevy Bolt. I think they're starting to see that that's what they need to do to take market share back from Tesla, because Tesla's
Mhm.
still at 74.9%
Yeah,
EV market share. The only way that's gonna change is if they can become more affordable, right?
e exactly, and so they just need GM needs to figure a way to be able to undercut then, more so Ford, because Ford's targeting Tesla like none other right now, so, if they can keep their prices under Tesla, they should be in a good spot, and to, make these things more affordable for the general public. I mean, it's it's already a struggle right now with the average cost of just at $47,000, right? I
Mhm.
mean, how can we get your normal everyday American to get one of these? I know we have the credit, but as we've discussed in many other videos, that you have to have the tax liability to be
Yes.
able to take advantage of it, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I still think people have this mindset that, oh, I can go buy an EV and then come the first quarter of the following year, I'm going to get a check back for $7,500. Well, that isn't the case.
yep, I
Now,
agree with you 100%.
I do like the fact that Chrysler Capital, they're actually giving the $7,500 as a cap cost reduction on their leases. So
Mhm.
that's awesome.
Yeah, Hyundai doesn't do that. If you
I
lease
know.
the Ioniq 5, you nope. Yeah, so, electrification is gonna have to become more affordable, and, I mean, honestly, Tesla's going in the opposite direction, and right now, when you think EV, you usually think Tesla, so I guess now it's on the shoulders of the legacy automakers to kind of
Hmm.
make EVs more affordable, so we'll see how that
Yep.
actually ends up. I'm
Yep.
hoping for the best. I think competition is always good for the market, so I hope that I hope that what legacy automakers are finally
Well,
doing
can we
benefits
touch
the
on
consumer. Yes.
competition just real
Yes,
quick?
let's touch on it.
What, so to me, I feel like EVs now are going to be sold direct to consumer from the OEMs. How is that
It's
going to
heading that way.
foster competition?
Well, you're gonna have automaker pricing competition rather than dealership
Well,
pricing.
but it's going to be smaller, right? And at least with the dealer, with the way that it's set up now, it's fostering a more competitive marketplace to be able to get vehicles at a potentially lower cost. But just one of those, arguments to talk about.
It would be nice if that's how it was going, but we've seen dealers just marking up EVs by 10, $20,000.
Well,
I had to
that's
go to
true.
California, not California. I had to go to New York to get my EV at MSRP, and the only reason I did that is because I really, really wanted it, and I wanted to keep it for a long time. And I knew that if I could save $3,000, $6,000 on my car, it was worth buying a one-way ticket for $300. But
True.
not everyone has the ability to do that, so
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
I would love if what you're saying has been true, but we've just seen that F-150 Lightnings are being marked up by 30, forty
I
thousand
know.
dollars, which is
I know.
ridiculous.
Even after Ford sent their memo,
Yeah,
don't do this.
in the trash
But
can. Yep.
but we already know that Ford, through Model E, is going to be selling them direct to consumers. So I'm getting the feeling that the dealers just don't care right now. They're gonna get what they can get out of these when they can get it.
Yeah. Interesting, interesting perspectives. Well, Phil, it's been a wonderful chat. And you know what? I think we need to have you back after you're able to test drive some EVs. And it's okay if it doesn't change your mind. I just want to know, what do you
Well,
think after you get behind the wheel?
there's some Ford dealerships around here that have the Mach-E that I can at least get my
That's a
hands
fun
on.
one to drive. Yeah.
One of them has a, GT. That would be fun.
And you can book a Tesla test drive just on the internet. You don't have to talk to anyone.
Oh,
Pick
really? I
pi
didn't
Yeah, oh,
know
yeah.
that.
That's how I've test driven so many of them, like a dozen times. You just go to Tesla's website, book a test drive, find the location nearest you. You show up, they have you, like, sign some kinda waiver, and then you hop in the
Mhm.
car and take it for a spin. You should really do that. I'm not a
Okay.
big fan of the ultra minimalism of a Tesla's interior, but
Mhm.
driving one is fun, and I think you should be behind the wheel, not a passenger.
Okay. Okay. I will do that, and I
Awesome.
will absolutely come back. and share my experience. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Phil, and I've really enjoyed this chat today.
Absolutely. It's been awesome.
We'll have
Thank
you
you.
back soon and have a great weekend, everyone.
Yep. You too. See you guys.